Hello Legacy students and welcome to Chapter 8. So today we're going to look at polynomial functions, which is what we're going to look at, some polynomial vocab and how to add and subtract them. What you're going to have on you, notes that you got from me today, a calculator, and then you're also going to want a pencil to write down the notes. So different types of polynomials. A polynomial, there's one thing called a monomial. It's when you just have a number or a variable or a product of number and one or more variables. So that's when you have multiple, just one thing. So some examples, you could have an 8, you can have a negative 2x, 3x squared y, 1/2 x squared. Any of those work. Notice how it's just together, it's just one thing. They're just one, like this is just one thing together, so they're multiplied. 2 terms is a binomial. It looks something like that. X to the 4th minus 8. Notice how there's 2 different terms separated by a subtractor or an add. A trinomial is one that looks like that. It has 3 terms to it. If you ever have more than 3 terms, you're just going to call it a polynomial. So let's look at some more definitions here. Standard form. Now, what standard form means is it's basically a common courtesy. It's a kind of like we say please and thank you in English. Math, standard power is when you write a polynomial so that the exponents are in decreasing order. So they're going to go down as you write them. So you're going to start with x to the 4th, and you're going to go x to the 3rd, and then you're going to go x to the 2nd. That is standard form. Writing it so that your exponents go in decreasing order. Degree. Now, degree in a polynomial is the highest power present. Whichever one is present, whatever the number is that's the biggest, the highest exponent that you're going to get, that is what you're going to have. And here's some degree and type. So this is a little chart for you to recognize. So if you have a degree of 0, you have a constant, so that's just a number, kind of like negative 14. If you have 1 degree, so first degree, just 1x, no exponent on that x. You have a linear. You've seen linear before. Quadratic is when you have an x squared. Cubic is when you have x cubed. And a quartic is when you have an x to the 4th. Now, you've probably seen those before. Not cubic and quartic as much, but linear and quadratic you've probably seen. So let's do these problems. Let's write them in standard form. Let's state the degree, let's state the types, and let's do the leading coefficient as well. And we'll talk about the leading coefficient once we get to it. So standard form. I'm going to make sure that I write so the highest exponent comes first. So I'm going to look here. I have an x squared and no x and an x to the 4th. So he needs to come first. So x to the 4th is going to be there first. He needs to come second because he's the next highest x, so negative 4x squared, and then he comes third, so it's going to be plus 3. Notice how I kept the signs the same on my standard form, so make sure you don't lose a negative somewhere. My degree then, that's the highest exponent located in my polynomial. So I have 4, that's my highest, so that's a degree of 4. So if you look back here, if you have a degree of 4, you have a quartic, right? So I have a quartic. And then how many terms do I have? I have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. I have a quartic trinomial. Now, leading coefficient. The leading coefficient, what that is, it's the number in the front. The coefficient. But you can only find it in standard form. So originally, I couldn't have actually grabbed it from here because that -4 is not the leading coefficient. I have to look here, and technically there's a 1 right here, 1x to the 4th. So my leading coefficient is a 1. Let's try this next one here. So I have 7x squared minus 3x cubed minus 4 plus 3x to the 4th. So my very first thing that I need to do, I need to write in standard form. So I'm going to look at my powers. I have a squared, I have a cubed, I have no x, and a 4. So that 4 guy, he has to go first. My cube is going to go next, so actually, I'm not supposed to have a positive there. I should have a negative. Subtraction. So subtract 3x cubed plus 7x squared minus 4. Like that. So then my degree is, again, a 4. So my type is a quartic, because degree matches with 4. And it's more than 4 terms, right? I have 4 terms, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a quartic polynomial. And my leading coefficient, the number in the front, 3. Find the degree of a monomial. Now, these are a little harder. What you're going to want to do is you're going to figure out the degrees of all of the numbers, or all of the letters, excuse me. So I have technically a 1 with this. So my degree is to the 1st. Okay? Not too bad. What about there becomes more than 1 letter in there? What you're going to do is you're going to actually add the exponents together to find your degree. So I'm going to forget about the 6. I want to add the 3 and the 2 together. It's going to give me a 5th degree for that monomial. What about 4? Is there any letters with 4? No. So this is a 0 degree. And then 8x to the y, or ax times y, so I have a 1 there and a 1 there, so we're going to add 1 plus 1, gives me a 2nd degree. So you're going to want to be careful of those, watch for those. Monomial is just a little bit different than the polynomial. Adding or subtracting monomials. So this is when I just have one term and I'm going to add or I'm going to subtract another term. So adding and subtracting is so easy. It's combining like terms really. So you've done this 3 and you've done this 5. So you're going to combine those two together. So I'm going to add them. 3 plus 5. 8. And then you're just going to keep x squared with it. Pretty simple, right? Let's do a look here. So I need to subtract, it looks like. So I'm going to go 4 minus 1. It's going to be 3x cubed y. So I'm just going to keep this stuff. You're going to always keep this when you're adding and subtracting. You're just going to keep the letters the same. You're never going to change it. What if you just add polynomials? So we're going to add these two together. You're going to add like terms. So I'm going to add the 4w and the 9w together, and the -5 and the +2. So 4w plus 9w, that is 13w. -5 plus 2, it's -3, right? Let's combine some like terms here. I got 2k squared, 5k squared, a -k, 3k, and a +3 and a -7. Notice how I'm underlining and circling and kind of doing different things. If that helps you to group things before you actually start adding, by all means do that. So I have a 2 and a 5, that's going to give me 7k squared. -k plus a +3k, that's a +2k. 3 minus 7, that's a -4. So that's my final answer for those ones. Let's look at these two. So I need to find the difference. Now, taking the difference is not as hard, is just a tiny bit harder, I guess, than the sum. But not too bad. What you need to do is you need to give this negative to everybody on the inside. So I'm going to have 5n minus 2, -3n. So I'm giving that negative to the 3n, and -8. Because a -1, technically you're distributing a -1. Technically that's what you need to do. So I'll go -1 times 3 gives me a -3. -1 times a +8, -8. Now you can combine your like terms. So I got this guy and this guy, so that gives me 2n, negative 2, negative 8, negative 10. Done with that part. Let's look at this one. So I need to give this negative to everybody. So I'm going to write my first part. On this negative, so negative 1 times negative 2, that's a positive 2. Negative 1 times a positive 4 is a negative 4. Negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. So I'm going to get positive w there, right? So now let's combine some like terms. I do not see anybody that's like the negative 6w. So I'm going to get negative 6w to the 4th. Let's combine the cubes now. No one there, so let's put him there. Oh, it looks like I have some w squareds to combine. So I have positive 1w squared, negative 4, so that's a negative 3w squared, right? And then poor w, he's all alone, so he's going to bring up the rear. So I'm writing in standard form. Notice how it goes 4, 3, 2, 1. That is standard form. Make sure you write that in that order. It's common courtesy, really. And that is the end of this video. See you later, Sabers.